September 11, 2001, at 7:14 a.m. Central Time, I was already at the office. I was working for a small 5-person marketing company in Germantown, Wisconsin, and we would routinely take turns making breakfast for everyone at least twice a week. We would also have one of the network morning shows on the mini televisions throughout the open concept office. In the midst of prepping the vegetables for one of the omelets for breakfast, I heard gasps and exclamations of "What just happened?" from across the room. The news of the first plane flying into the World Trade Center had just come across the screen. And just like the entire country, the entire world, our small group of women in Wisconsin were in complete shock, uncertainty, and if I'm honest, absolute fear. As more disjointed information was coming in, the second plane flew into the second tower. And we were hearing about the Pentagon, we were hearing about Pennsylvania, a third tower. We saw this infamous clip of then President George W. Bush being told in his ear what had happened while he was reading to a classroom of elementary school children. Planes were grounded all across the entire country. And one of the company owners, her husband was in Chicago on business, and her husband was also Muslim. She could not reach him. Getting through to people on cell phones in major cities that day was almost impossible, and was very concerned for his safety. Schools shut down across the country, and my school district in Menominee Falls was no exception. Companies across the country were closing as well. It felt like the whole country was going home to prepare for a war on our soil that we were certain was about to occur. We had been attacked in a horrendous public manner for all the world to see. As the hours continued, we were painfully, horrifically watching fellow Americans choose to jump out of the burning buildings to their deaths rather than to burn. We saw people wandering the streets of New York City, dazed and confused, covered in ash. We saw first responders bravely going into the chaotic and dangerous situation, risking and sometimes sacrificing their lives to save lives and to find survivors. My own grandmother, Grandma Kathy, was living with me at the time, and when I came home, she was so scared, and she was in the early stages of dementia at this time. And I'll never forget, she asked me if I thought we were heading to a nuclear war and was the world about to end. This is a day I will never, ever forget. It is the kind of day I never, ever want to experience again. Remember September 11th. Remember how we felt. Remember those innocent lives lost. Remember the first responders who were brave in the face of destruction. Remember the servicemen and women who subsequently lost their lives in wars after. Remember those who were unjustly accused of being something that they were not. Remember that for a brief time, we put our differences aside and came together as Americans, and the world came together as humanity, and we chose to love one another without regard for race, creed, color, ethnicity, political leaning, whatever. Remember 9/11.